I'm going to try and start
Yeah.
off a little bit spicy with a spicy little comment about Scotty Scheffler. The PGA Tour is excited this week. Why? Because Scotty Scheffler will not be playing. So there's a lot of opportunities for guys to win. We're going to give you one that is 22 to 1. We're also going to give you some DraftKings darlings and some finishing positions so we can turn a profit onto the Wells Fargo. Welcome to Tea Time. I'm Andy from WagerTalk.com, being joined, as always, by my fellow golf betting expert, Nick Borman from WagerTalk.com. Let's get into it. We have a loaded field, but Scheffler is not here, so we got a lot of golfers to go over that are going to be, seriously, really motivated and knowing they got a real chance to win this tournament. Nick, we're going to Quail Hollow here, and this is a pretty long, beastly course, but it's scoreable. This is a course that gave up a minus 19 last year to Wyndham Clark. He played the par fives in minus 10, and that's where all the scoring is on this course. You basically have to really tear apart the par fives. Then you got to get a couple birdies here or there. The last 5 winners have gone minus 6 or better across the par fives. Length off the tee is huge. Accuracy, yeah, it's important, but really you got to put the ball way out there, especially on these longer par fours and these par fives. Long iron play is going to be key to limiting bogeys on the par fours. So shorter players that leave themselves, a long iron approach, those guys are going to be at a disadvantage this week. The other thing that's going to take a little bit of length off, the weather looks like it's going to be a little bit cool this week. Small chance of some rain and some thunderstorms on Friday and Thursday, but nothing too bad. I don't think we're going to get a disruption unless there's lightning in the area. Beautiful course. There's some water hazards around, but really length is the key in this one. So, Nick, what do you think about Quail Hollow, and do you think we see another really, really low score like we saw last year?
I don't know. I mean, I think history tells us that the low scores here usually aren't the case. I mean, it was Wyndham 19, and then Xander was 4 back or 3 back, and then the third place was 12 under, which is kind of typical. So aside from the 2 guys sort of running away with it, and that was in a 156-man field last year, it wasn't that easy. So they just made it look a little easier. So I don't know. It all depends on the weather, as you mentioned. Thursday, Friday, and earlier in the week kind of have chances of rain. So if it plays a little softer on those first 2 days, that would be the opportunity, and then it should dry out, firm up as the week goes on. So as far as trying to find somebody to win, you're probably looking for somebody that can get off to a quick start. I think you're going to have to go low on Thursday or Friday to have a chance to actually win. I don't think anybody's coming back. I think it's going to play a lot tougher over the weekend. So I don't think anybody's coming back from anything. But it's a fun course. You mentioned, the length, which is a huge factor here. It's sort of like Augusta in the factor that, Brian Harmon's probably not going to do too well at a place like this just because he's hitting 2 or 3 clubs longer than everybody else that's already hitting 5 irons. So he's going to be hitting a lot of longer irons or even hybrids, fairways, whatever. So it's, I don't see a lot of low scores this week. I see a pretty tough track, which is good. It gets the guys prepped for next week's PGA Championship. Valhalla looks like it's going to play very difficult this year. So that's a good thing for, I think, most of the players in the field to try to get prepped for that. And, they have that Green Mile finish here, which is very, very difficult too. The 4-3-4, long par, 2 long par 4s, long par 3, always presents a good finishing stretch to this tournament. One last note I'll add, Andy, not so much on the course, but really just trying to figure out, an outright winner is, and I'm kind of taking the strategy myself this week, is to not preload the tournament too heavy with outrights. So maybe if you play 3, 4, or 5 normally, maybe do half of that for this week, because there is one trend that tends to play true here, and that's kind of where you stand after the cut. So, although there's no cut, but after round 2. So 8 of the last 10 winners here have been no worse than 5th place after Friday's second round. So I'm trying to keep that in my back pocket to look at and go, what, if I don't have any outrights in play, if I take 3 guys or maybe just 2 guys going into the weekend and none of them are doing very well, then I might look to a live ad before going into Saturday's matchup. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I know, I'm an outright bettor. For any outright bettors out there, it might be a little bit of a strategy this week in particular, because it's just not a course people usually come back on. And I think that'll play true again this week, just because I think the course is going to get more difficult. So get your early starts in, look for the guys that get off to fast starts. just in general, round 1, round 2, low scores. And then hopefully they can hold on from there and live at that point. But that's kind of my notes from the course and really how this tournament usually plays out.
Yeah, boy, this would have set up perfect for Scotty Scheffler, wouldn't it? Long course,
Yeah.
tee to green. I mean,
Yeah.
this was tailor made for him. So we're going to go over a bunch of guys that we think will give it a really good run to win, and we'll go over some guys that we think might struggle this week. While you're watching this, if you could please hit the like button and leave us a comment. Love all the comments. Love seeing what you guys are betting on and what you're picking. I got a couple messages saying that a couple people checked out the live tournament and that I was completely right in my assessment of that. So let me know in the comment section if anybody checked out live or what you got, any thoughts on that. So we got a big week next week because we got our next PGA Tour major. So let's get off to a really good start this week. Let's get some profits in and then get ready for the major. Let's take a look at total strokes gained here. We're looking at a chart now. We're a few months into the season here. And now we're looking at past 3 months, past 6 months, and past 12 months on total strokes gained. Bear is not in here anymore. We're going to talk about him a little bit later. Scheffler isn't in here. So those are two guys that can bomb the ball off the tee that certainly would have been in the mix. So top 10 strokes gained. Nick, walk us through this chart and what can we take away from it?
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt two of the favorites are missing this week. And Ludwig was in the field before withdrawing on Monday. So there was, you already missed your chance, but there was a split second where each of these guys probably had a couple more cents on their value as far as outrights, but those dropped once he pulled. But this is, of course, the who's who on, who's on the odds board and who's in this tournament this week. It's the top 10 strokes gained, total strokes gained over the last 12 months. No surprises on this list, Andy. I mean, all the top 20 players in the field are in this list, as you can clearly see here. The trends, are worth talking about. Victor Hovland, the hottest player in the world to finish last season, winning the FedEx Cup, has clearly fallen off, and the numbers show that as the most drastic kind of guy on this graphic as going the wrong direction. Then you got a guys, who's Xander Schauffele, steady as they come, yet just can't seem to get over the winner's circle hump. Rory, long term, we know he's great. He hasn't been as sharp in the shorter term, but maybe that tournament, I mean, he carried Lowry on his back 2 weeks ago at the Zurich. That might just be the kind of catalyst that guy needs to propel forward. And of course, we know he loves this tournament. He's won here like 15 times. So Rory's again on the list there. Wyndham Clark, last year's defending champion, trending in the right direction. He kind of fell off. Then he kind of won the 54-hole tournament at Pebble, right, when it was called short. And then, for 2 or maybe 3 runner-up to Scotty since then. So he's playing very, very well. Hideki Matsuyama I put as a notable. Sahith Theegala at the bottom there. Those are guys that didn't quite fit the top 10 over the last 12 months, but they did crack the top 10 either in the last 6 months or the last 3 months, and you can clearly see the highlights on the screen there that show how well they've been playing short term. Another couple guys that are on this list that made some noise, Alex Noren, playing very, very quietly, very steadily. He's in the top 10 over the last 6 months. Christian Bezuidenhout is actually in that list as well. But so they all have so much room on the graphic. I'm not going to put everybody, I'm not going to put the entire field on this graphic. So these are the notables I chose. JT is an interesting case study. He's a guy that won here. The 2017 PGA Championship was here, and he won here. Obviously, he had a bad season last year. Then all of a sudden, he kicked it into high gear, at the end of last season, which carried over into the beginning of this season. And you can see that in the trend from 12 months up to 6 months, but then it's kind of fallen off the last 3 months. So hard to make any case or understanding of what the heck you're going to get out of JT this week. But these are the guys in the field that are near the top of the odds board, that are playing the longest or playing well over the longest period of time. And you can see by the odds that you're not getting, big long numbers on any of these guys. Russell Henley, 45 to 1 is pretty solid. Matty Ice, 35 to 1, maybe sneaky at that price. So, but nothing too surprising here, Andy. Just good not to see Scotty up at the top of the graphic, just bold green while everybody else is in white. So that's your top 10 for this week.
Yeah, Russell Henley's an interesting one. He's in the same boat as Brian Harman. Like,
yeah,
great golfer, but man, is this length way too much? I actually went back and looked at Harman. He's played okay here. He's had a couple really good finishes, but not last year and this year. He flat out said that this course is just too long. The Augusta,
Yeah.
when they were at the Masters, it was just like the shot making just isn't there when you're that far back. And sure enough, he was bad there. So yeah, he would be a fade for me on this one. Henley as well. They're just, those iron shots are just way too long to give yourself too many birdie opportunities. So make sure you're looking at a
Agreed.
driving distance. Yeah. All right, let's take a look at players that can trip you up. I go through these players, try and figure out who's playing that I think a lot of people are going to be betting on. I'm here to warn you, they may trip you up. I'll start with Max Homa. A great history here. He's won here twice the last 4 years, finished 8th here last year, but he's just not been that great this year. And he really went all in on the Masters. But he followed that up with a 55th place finish the next week. We haven't seen him since then, the last 3 months. He's only plus 0.78 total strokes gained. He's been pretty bad off the tee, and that's a big problem here. His approaches haven't been that great. His putting has really been his saving grace, but at this long course, I just don't think you can I just don't think you can struggle off the tee that much and compete for the win. He's priced as a top 7 player this week. I think there's a chance he disappoints. I was really struck by how much he geared up for the Masters. I mean, it was kind of like that's all I've really been training for is that one course. So I wonder if we get a little bit of a lull on him next week because he just kind of shakes off the rust from the few weeks break and gets ready for next week. So I have him down as a player that can trip you up. Up next, Rory McIlroy. Boy, Nick, Rory is the betting favorite. When has this ever gone well? Seriously, when has Rory McIlroy's the betting favorite ever gone great for everybody? You're right. He won the Zurich, completely carried it. He's still that. I'm taking that tournament out. That's partners. It doesn't count. Seriously, it doesn't count. Take that out. He only has one finish better than 19th this season. He has great history here, but not last year where he finished 47th. I just cannot bet on him at this price. He is consistently finishing 20th or worse. And I think people are going to take a little bit too much away from the Zurich, and a very odd tournament. And actually, one of the things that maybe helped him in that tournament was that there was no pressure. He could just go out and swing away. He was playing with his buddy. It looked like an amateur scramble where one guy's playing terrible and the other guy's saving him, and there was no pressure. Maybe that was the right format for him, but there's no chance I can bet on him. I can't put him in any DFS lineups at this price. No way. And then I have to bring up Jordan Spieth. He made the list of players that could trip you up last week, and he did not disappoint on that list. He's still priced as a top 20 golfer. He missed the cut last week in a bad field. In the last 6 tournaments, he has one finish better than 39th, and he has 4 missed cuts. Nick, is he more likely to finish top 20 or missed? Like, I know he's not going to miss the cut, but like top 20 or outside the top 60. like what? This is crazy that Jordan Spieth is still priced as a top 20 golfer. His approaches are terrible right now, minus 0.11 in the last 3 months. And normally his putting and around the green just saves him, and it's not happening. I could not bet on him to finish even in the top 40 right now. His game is a complete mess. So I cannot believe that this guy's still priced in the top 20. So I don't know if anybody's going to be putting in lineups or, think they might be sneaky with him, but please don't bet on Jordan Spieth right now. So Max Homa, Rory McIlroy, and Jordan Spieth are 3 players that I think can trip you up. All right, now it gets fun. Let's talk about an outright. Let's talk about an outright winner. This rarely happens, but every once in a while it does happen where you and I are going to be going head to head. So let's talk about who you have as an outright winner this week.
Well, you segued me perfect. So Jordan Spieth, if there's any player that can miss a cut in a no-cut event, it's probably Jordan Spieth. So I agree with you there. He's not a guy to play. And if you're going to bet Rory, he's a live ad, right? Maybe hope for a slightly slow round 1. He's 8-1 or worse right now. So maybe you can get him up at 10-1, 12-1, something like that after round 1, or maybe even round 2, even though that kind of contradicts what I said earlier in the show. That's probably the only way to play Rory if you're really interested in betting on him this week. Otherwise, I wouldn't touch a pre-tournament. And yes, Max Homa, as you said, Andy, we usually don't disagree too much on this. I'm usually proud of myself when I look at your players that can trip you up list and my guys aren't on there. This week, that is not the case. I am on Max Homa. as an outright play at 22-1 this week. And I understand a lot of what you said and why, you want to avoid him. And honestly, if it wasn't for his finish at the Masters, I probably wouldn't have looked at him. But he's a kind of a guy that when he gets going, I mean, I know he finished not great at the following week at the RBC. I get that. But usually he's the kind of a guy when he gets into a little bit of a groove, he can kind of stay in that groove for a little while. Yeah, obviously, you already mentioned he's got a great track record here. Quail Hollow was the site of his first PGA Tour win back in 2019. He also finished tied for 8th last year. If you just look at the tournament history, you're going to see another win at this event in 2022. But please know that was a different golf course. That was TPC Potomac. So they were playing I think it was the Ryder Cup that year at Quail Hollow. So they weren't playing there. But he had that quiet start, seemingly a quiet start here to 2024, as you mentioned, Andy. He made that big splash at Augusta. He had a chance to win that tournament. He ultimately finished tied for 3rd. He also has 2 additional tied for 20 in signature events this season, which is, something, I guess. It's a little quiet because we expect a little bit more from him. But again, he's a guy that really, I don't know many players that kind of play up at the same venues year in and year out. Homa, we know about his California pedigree, right? But it's just kind of like where he gets comfortable. Every year he tends to do well at that particular golf course, even if he's not in the best form. Quail Hollow obviously has great results. I expect them to play well here because he loves the track. He's shown good results here. And just, again, that little extra oomph for me is that he played very, very well at Augusta. Of course, that we talked about him at that tournament prior, somewhere he has never played well. And you're right. I think he put a lot of extra time and effort into getting over that hump because, he just in majors in general, he really wasn't doing it. So I think that will help him. His confidence can, continue to carry over here. He gets, like I said, he gets into grooves and he can stay into grooves for a long time. And evidence of that is he kind of finished last summer, 7 straight top 12 finishes, which was capped by a win at the Nedbank Golf Challenge. I know it's on the DP World Tour, not quite the same pedigree of talent, but still playing very, very well. He's got distance off the tee. We already talked about that's important. He's a 5-tool caliber player. He gains strokes across the board in all 5 measured categories. He's a particularly good putter, which I think is what has happened. When he gets hot with the putter, it overcomes a couple of missed shots throughout the week. He ranks 6th in strokes gained putting last season. So I'm hoping he can ride a hot putter this week. If he has a good putter, even if he's slightly off with all those other clubs, at least he'll be in the mix, I think, come Sunday. So course history, a little bit of an increase for me, at least, in his current form based on what he did at Augusta, and hopefully that confidence is with him as well. So I think 22-1, I think is a decent price to go back to Homa this week. Sorry to say I'm rooting against you on this one, Andy, but I'm going Max Homa.
All right, Max Homa's your free outright winner here. Once again, hit the like button if you're enjoying the gambling content. Leave us a comment. Tell us who you like this week. We got plays up at WagerTalk.com. I have my best bet up already for this week. 18-8 in golf plays this year. We're number 1 on WagerTalk.com in golf profits, and we have never had a losing season since joining Wager Talk years ago. So very, very proud of the golf record, and we are up 23 units so far. So we're already having a great golf season, and we're looking to add to it. I did not have any plays last week. I didn't like anything on the board, so we sat out last week, kind of getting ready for this week and next week. And there's a play that is just fantastic that is up at WagerTalk.com. We're up around 60 units profit for all sports in 2024. So very proud of all of those records. Make sure you check that out. WagerTalk.com, WT.buzz/AL for my golf best bet. That will include all head-to-head matchups and any plays that I have for the rest of the week at this tournament. Nick, tell everyone what you have up at WagerTalk.com and where we can find you at.
Sure. This week is obviously the tournament pack for this event is already up and available. I have 3 outright plays preloaded. I'll be looking to add something as the tournament goes on based on what I mentioned before, in case we don't have anybody in the running come the weekend. Hopefully that's not the case, but even still I might. And then I'll have one higher priced or more risk units on a leaderboard bet in that pack as well. And soccer MLS has been great again. We're on our way to our 6th straight winning season, 3-0 last weekend, profitable again already this year. So that is in full swing, and we have, of course, a big full slate of that on the weekend. The European leagues on soccer are ending very soon. We only have about 3 weeks left in the domestic leagues, another 4th week left with like Champions League going on. So that is winding down, but we do have the summer tournament series coming up with the Euros this summer. So it's a good time for sure to look at a 30-day or longer soccer package, all available over my page at WagerTalk.com.
Let's talk about some DraftKings darlings, some really good lower priced guys. I was really surprised on some of these prices. Great week for DFS. Taylor Moore, 6,700. Pretty simple. I mean, this is a guy who's been as consistent as it gets. He's made the cut in all 11 tournaments he's played in this year. So he doesn't seem to have these bad rounds that really, crush his tournament. Played well both years that he's played here. That was the last 2 years. Great numbers in tee to green. I really like him to play well and ended up with like a top 50, maybe even a top 40 finish at 6,700. An oldie but goodie here, Nick. Ricky Fowler. He's been playing much. Yeah, he's been playing much better. Made the cut in 6 out of his last 7 events. Finished 14th and 21st here the last 2 years. So less than 7,000. Pretty incredible price for him. Just needs some really good points over 4 rounds, and he's been doing that, and he's done it the last couple years. So I like Ricky Fowler. And then Steven Yeager, he's just been pretty good recently. Long off the tee, great around the green, finished 20th or better in 3 out of the last 4 weeks, and he's finished 27th and 6th here the last 2 years. He's great value. I mean, that 27th and 6th place finish, I don't think it's a coincidence that he's really long off the tee. It ends up, finishing in the top 32 years in a row. So it seems to fit this course. So take a look at Steven Yeager at 7,500. I've got the rest of the lineup that is up at WagerTalk.com, free digital download. It's got total strokes gained. It's got players that can trip you up, all the write-ups, and much more. So check that out on my profile page. It's free article, digital download, Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. And Nick, you're going to talk about a finishing position. Who do we like to finish? Maybe not in the win column, but somewhat close to the win column. Who you got your eye on this week?
Yeah, for what it's worth, I just want to throw in a mention on Taylor Moore because I did look at him actually in this segment, and he's plus 240 for a top 20, Andy. So it's a third of the field he's got to beat.
Love
plus
it.
650 for a top 10, but I do like that top 20 price on Taylor Moore. He finished top 20 at the Masters, a runner-up at the Texas Houston Open, tied for 12th at the Valspar. So he had some good finishes. He's got plenty of distance. He's played here each of the last 2 years, tied for 27th last year in a 156-man field. So I do actually like Taylor Moore. I agree with you a lot on him this week. My particular one I'm giving out here for this show is Sahith Theegala, who has really blossomed into a steady performer on the tour, even in the big events. It's pretty remarkable to see kind of come out of nowhere. I think it was 3 years ago now at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. He almost won it, and then he kind of was just fizzling there for a little while, but he's really turned it on over the last year, especially this season. He's got he's listed, first of all, as a top 10 betting favorite. Clearly the odds makers are on to Theegala and how well he's been playing. He's coming off a solo second at the Heritage, right? Obviously Scotty won it, but he was right there. He followed a tie for 9th at the Players, a tie for 6th at the Arnold Palmer, also event Scotty Scheffler won, and a solo 5th at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, just again proving he can play well on the biggest stages. He also had another runner-up at the opener this season at the Century. He can send it. He can hit it a long way off the tee. He gets blistering hot with his putter. He actually ranks 4th in this field in strokes gained putting over the last 12 months. And I think he's 4th in the last 6th and 4th in the last 3 too. So he's just a steady performer with the flat stick. His biggest weakness is his short game. It's not bad. It's just that's like if there's one area that he would need to focus on the most, it would probably be there. But he doesn't miss a ton of greens. To his credit, he actually ranks 20th on tour this season in greens and regulation. So listen, if you can hit greens, that's a one easy way to get better at your short game because you can avoid it altogether. And he also ranks better than most on approaches over 200 yards, coming in at 31st this season. And the guys are going to face a lot of approaches at 175 and longer, but probably quite a few at over 200 as well. All of that leads to him ranking 18th in bogey avoidance. I bring that up because I think it's an important stat to look at when you're playing difficult golf courses in deep fields. And I think it's a reason he's done well in these harder golf course and deeper field events is because if you can avoid bogeys, like everybody's going to make them, but if you can avoid a few more throughout the season. We all know the big events. It's not about who's making the most birdies. It's just who's making the most pars throughout and then sprinkling in a couple birdies. And he ranks 18th in that category, which helps him then rank 7th in adjusted scoring this season. So I do agree that Tagala is a top 10 betting favorite this week, and we can get better than 2-1, up to plus 275 is available out there, anywhere from plus 250 to plus 275 or most books. So I think it's a great price for him to get a top 10 finish. He only has one start here at Quail Hollow. He did make the cut last year in the 156-man field, but again, he's a much different player now than he was even a year ago. So I like Tagala for a good finish this week.
I will tell you, Thigala's in my DraftKings lineup.
Good.
Yeah, I put him in there. I really like him this week as well. All right, I've got a couple of random questions for Nick that I have not told him about. We'll close out the show with these. Ludwig Abear sitting out this week with knee soreness. Will Zalatoris withdrew last week with back soreness. You worried about these guys?
Zalatoris, yeah, because the back is something he missed the season for. He had surgery for. So, yes, anything you have to say with Willie Z, yes, and he hasn't shown he's had a couple good finishes, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't shown the consistency yet coming back. So him more so than Ludwig. Ludwig has done nothing but impress every time he tees it up. I mean, if it wasn't for Scotty Scheffler, this guy would be the Masters champion. I mean, he's played well in all the big events. I guess we'll have to wait and see as we go into next week. I don't know any other stories. I haven't heard anything else. He was actually on ESPN last night on doing an interview with Van Pelt. So I watched that. I mean, he didn't seem to be very worried about it. He looked very calm, very casual, very comfortable. So no indication for me that I'm worried or that anything further is going on there. So I guess we'll wait and see. But I'm more worried about Zalatoris than I am Ludwig. I love Ludwig. I think he's got sky's the limit for that kid. I'm
worried about both of them. Part of it is it just feels like as golf fans we just can't have anything nice. Like Rahm's barely making the top 10 on Live. Rob and Koepka can't compete at the majors, at least not at the Masters.
Don't take away Ludwig, Andy. Don't do it.
Scotty's gonna. That's what I mean. Scotty's taking a break. Rory can't compete for wins. It's just like, can we have anything nice in golf? Oh, that's great. We got a couple of good up and comers. Oh, Zalatoris back problems. I'm sure that won't linger. Abear. Oh, good. Young 20s knee problems. Sure
come on.
I listen. I
hope not.
We just keep getting beaten over the head with having nice things taken away from us. Only 3 golfers in this field have finished 30th or better in 6 straight tournaments. I'm not going to make everybody guess because you'll never guess them. Xander Schauffele is one of them. Makes sense. One of the most consistent, probably the most consistent guy outside of Scheffler this year. The other 2, Siwoo Kim and Alex Noren. What are your thoughts with a lot of these big name guys? Like, are they going for broke in some of these? Like, is that why we're seeing guys? I mean, like, Wyndham Clark. Let me read you his last 5 finishes: second, 31st, missed cut, 3rd. like we're just not seeing the consistency from some of these guys. Colin Morikawa, 9th, 3rd, 75th, 45th. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to read into it, but I'm pretty surprised at some of these bigger names that just aren't consistent tournament in and tournament out. Any thoughts?
I think it goes to speak to the level of where Scotty is, even where Xander is. I know he's not winning, but the consistency that he has is fantastic. The way I look at it, Andy, is I've grown to how I word that differently. I've learned to understand that that's what's going to happen nowadays. It's been kind of that way the last 2 seasons, honestly, because you'll see guys that Justin Thomas is a guy that's had a longer period of time, but generally Max Homa is a good example. Hot, and then he cools off for a month or 2. Victor Hovland's in the middle of now a 4-month, 5-month. What the heck is going on there? But even you're right, week to week with some of these guys is like, all right, what is the deal? All I can say is this. To me, I don't shy away from a guy that's had a bad week. Anybody can have a bad week. So I look at the guys that you mentioned, 6 tournament runs. If you have 4 of those tournaments where you're in the top 25, top 20, up in that market, that's kind of where the consistency on the PGA Tour is at this moment. I don't know why. I don't know what it is that's a little bit different. But it kind of reassures me that, hey, listen, don't shy away from those guys. Look at the betting markets. Golf betting markets, at least in my opinion, adjust week to week more than most other sports. I mean, a lot. You can see a guy coming off a win last week that maybe it was a little bit of a surprise. Might have been 80-1. All of a sudden, he's 40-1 the following week. And you're like, that's a pretty big adjustment. It's usually why we both avoid him. Anybody looking for a back-to-back win, but a guy like, for me again, like Homa or Morikawa, I'm not on him this week, but I'm not too worried. They play consistent enough where I think they'll be there more often than not. And if it helps us get a couple points on their outright prices, then you got to go with it. But don't shy away from it because, as you mentioned, the consistency is just not going to be there. And if it is, Xander Schauffele, Scotty Scheffler, you're going to be paying the premium for it. I mean, gosh, it's even hard to bet Scotty. He's now looking at he's approaching minus 150s or higher on top fives, Andy.
Yeah,
you're losing any ability to bet on, which is very difficult. So you have to pay for it if you really want it. But I think there's plenty of value still in some of these guys, and it's volatility of golf. It's going to happen some weeks. I go out there and play very well one day, and then the next day I look like what the I don't know. I quit.
Right. Exactly. All right. One last question. If you have not hit the like button and left a comment, please do that. It really helps the algorithm. It helps us out. Don't forget to get our best bets. Nick Borman at WagerTalk.com, Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. Final question. How much sleep did Ben Coles get on Sunday night? After
gosh.
1 hour? 2 hours? If you guys missed it, Ben Coles just completely choked. No other way to put it. I don't like using that word, but he just absolutely choked on the easiest hole that he might ever play this year. It was the only bogey on that hole in that entire round, and it happened to be the leader bogeying it on the final hole of the round to lose the tournament that he was leading. I texted my buddy and I said, he's never going to get over this one. And my buddy said, oh, no, he's a pro. He'll get over it. He'll be fine. I don't know, man. Does he get over that one?
He's the reigning Korn Ferry Tour Player of the Year, right? I think he'll be okay in the long run, but I think maybe short term it might take a little while, right? It's hard to get past that sometimes. And I was actually kind of kicking myself because I bet on Ben Coles twice, I think, in the last 2 months, and kind of like not the big events, but the secondary events, because it's kind of like the Jake Knapp story, who played very well this week as well. They're both up and comers that are showing the potential. So oddly enough, I was kind of rooting against him. I'm like, all right, I don't want to be the guy. I was like, I bet on him 2 weeks ago and I missed his first win. So I was kind of happy he didn't win. But I think he will get over it. It might take a little while though.
I'm rooting for him now. I want to see that guy win a tournament. I mean, he just had it right there. So I'm now rooting for Ben Coles more than most in these tournaments. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for joining us on Tee Time. Big week this week and next week. Lots of golf profits to be had. We've got loaded fields with lots of stats and information. A couple of tough courses the next couple weeks. So should really test these guys, but it should be setting up well for some profits come in to help build those bankrolls. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will see everyone next week on another episode of Tee Time.